Live. My name is Carrie Clendenning, and I have a degree in public policy analysis and was the legislative liaison for the Kanawha County Commission for 10 years. So this kind of makes this conversation relevant. This is Ramon Perez. I hope I didn't jack up your name
Yeah,
too
no, that's
much.
good.
He, he's the founder of the Digital Democracy Project, and I heard him speak on a podcast not too long ago, and I'm going to share some words that spoke to my heart. And his words were, "When people feel like they can't reach their government, they will result in violence." So I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can introduce yourself and tell us about the project.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. I haven't done this on Substack before, so this is new for me. I appreciate getting the chance to talk to your audience. Yeah, Digital Democracy Project, the concept, we're a nonprofit organization. We are trying to use secure mobile voting technology that's been designed predominantly for military voters overseas to vote by phone when it's difficult to get an absentee ballot through the mail. But we're not a supervisor of elections office, so we're using it for a different purpose. We're saying, what if you could use this to let people weigh in on legislation as it's currently being debated in Congress or in your state capitol, or in your county board or in your city commission or in your school board? I mean, the technology allows it, and we are tracking legislation, putting bills into the app as they're moving through Congress, and letting people who are verified voters, who meaning they've proven that they have a selfie scan that matches their driver's license. We have the voter file from the state. We can match them against the voter file. So we're following the same protocol as if it's a real election, but we're saying let's let people weigh in on the public policy that's being debated in Washington on their behalf or in their state capital. So that's the basic concept of this nonprofit organization. We started this in Florida in 2023 with Florida legislation. We started at the state house first before we wanted to go on to federal because we wanted to prove out the process. But the other thing that we're doing is we've really invested quite a bit in using AI, because at the very beginning we were our legislative policy volunteers, people like you, but for Florida politics. They would read the bills and try to write plain language summaries of the bills, because we found that, as you know, the bills are just super complicated. They use complex legal language. It's not designed for us. It's designed for a bunch of lawyers and future judges to hash it out in the courtroom. And we wanted to actually explain to people what the bill does and how it affects their lives, and so they can make an informed opinion before having a say in the process. So at first we were doing that manually, and we've been, because AI has really grown in capability quite quickly, we now allow the language model to take the first pass at reading and summarizing the bill. And then our policy team reviews that to make sure it's accurate before we publish it, and we put it in the mobile app for people to participate. So that's the basic gist of what we're doing. But as you can imagine, with somebody with your expertise, there's a variety of different wrinkles to this to try to make it all work.
Yeah. So yesterday I told you about the 5,614 comments that were received this past legislative session. And I'll just update the audience real quick. With the West Virginia legislature, you can comment on House bills. The Senate does not have that function turned on. I don't know why. But you cannot comment on a Senate bill until it crosses over to the House. So can you explain to the audience what it would look like how you could kind of, I guess, revamp that public comment process?
Right, exactly. There are a couple of key distinctions between what we do and the existing public comment process. For one, the existing public comment process is really a hodgepodge, like you say. Not only different states have different approaches to it, but even different chambers have different approaches to it. In DC, I mean, in Congress, there's not even really a formalized way to do that. You would email your legislator, and they're not subjected to FOIA requests, so you can't actually find out how many people called your congressman's office and figured, just to see how many people were on one side of the, let's say, Homeland Security funding versus another. How many people wanted ICE to get more money in their budget or not? You can't see that by asking your legislator release that information. So there's no inherent transparency in that process. So some states do publish the results, and some don't. Some are more opaque than others. They sort of govern themselves, and we're trying to make that a consistent, transparent, and a.
Or you froze. Maybe it's rebuffering. Or maybe he's talking. Oh, he's gone. Just a second. Let me invite him back in. He must have lost his internet connection.
Oh, there we go.
There you are.
I got dropped. Okay. Sorry.
Okay. You cut off probably in the middle.
Okay. So yeah, I think we're trying to make that a transparent process that's the same everywhere. We want it to be secure in the sense that we want the technology to have a high degree of confidence, because again, it's real election software. It's been used in several states, and as people vote, even though we can't see their secret ballots, so we don't see how people vote on a given bill, we can publish the aggregates results by district. So when you look at a map, you can see how many people in Florida House District 3, for example, support this bill or not. And the legislator gets the same information as the public. So journalists, public policy experts like you, voters, volunteers, everybody sees the same information and can act on that, can put pressure on their legislators to do what the public wants. But we also, at the end of the session, we compare what voters wanted in the app to what legislators actually did in the session, so that we have an apples and apples comparison to say, the people told you they wanted you to vote, yes or no on the one big beautiful bill, and did you match that? Did you match what the voters in your district wanted? So that every legislator gets a scorecard that can show over the course of hundreds of bills, you get a real trend line of whether or not that person truly represents the district that sent them to Capitol Hill in the first place.
I really like that function of it, because I feel like, and I know all organizations have different priorities or whatever, but I feel like right now you have like these different scorecards, and I mean, who knows what to believe when you see a scorecard, but I feel like a scorecard like that is backed by good, solid data.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of can't refute what's on your scorecard. But you touched on something yesterday about you could potentially have, I can't remember if you said your technology was there, like citizen crafted amendments. Can you kind of highlight what that would look like?
Right. Yes. So that's what I think is a neat concept. We've there's a project called Polis, created by the Computational Democracy Center, that's been used in some countries like Taiwan, I think Iceland, a handful of places in Europe, that have been experimenting with this idea of mass public participation. And what Polis does is it allows people to either agree or disagree with a variety of statements. And so what you do is you seed the app with these statements. So let's say you were trying to build a public policy, and you say, should we have more benches in the park, or should we allow dogs off leash, or should we do more landscaping, or whatever it is. You put a variety of these statements in there, people vote up or down, and what you'll quickly see is kind of a convergence around what gains the most popular support and where do people diverge, so that you can find a policy on building a new city park or renovating that captures the greatest amount of common agreement, right? So it's a digital version of debate and dialogue and sense making of what people are looking for out of public policy. And so we've kind of had this idea of how could we introduce this into what we're doing with Digital Democracy Project regarding legislation, and letting people have a say. The one big beautiful bill, for example, that's an omnibus bill, 1,500 pages. It's got a lot of different policy concepts kind of jammed in there. And what if you just peeled apart each major idea inside of there, where some of it was immigration funding, some of it was tax on tips, some of it, it's 1,000 different things kind of jammed together to try to make something pass, but you could use tools to let people weigh in on which parts they like and which parts they don't like. And you could essentially create amendments that change the bill for the better, that are crafted by citizens going through this kind of asynchronous debate and dialogue process.
I think that's amazing. And so I spoke to this briefly yesterday when we were talking about, I went through the comments, and that there is this great consensus amongst West Virginians as to what they want. And it looks like it just shows that the legislature is not responding to them right now. And I told you this yesterday on the outside, and for my audience, I wrote about this. I call it Carrie Substack 1.0. I wrote about this last fall, that West Virginia does not look on the surface like it has been regulatory captured, but it is probably, I would say, at least has to be in the top 5 regulatory captured state governments in the country. I mean, we're sitting here with Patricia Rucker, Senator Patricia Rucker. She's national chair of ALEC, at least she was for last year, doesn't matter. And then you have Mark Maynard, who is a state chair of, Senator Mark Maynard. And so I feel like the way I understand your technology, it's like all those public comments, it's like right here it is in your face.
Right, exactly. Because what we want is to give people a sense that they still have agency in this process. It increasingly feels like so much of government has moved further and further away from its original intent of being of, by, and for the people. And you could argue that in a lot of ways, America has always fallen short of that vision. But we have an opportunity to use new tools to really reimagine what participatory democracy could look like, that has true mass public participation and engagement. And people will often come to me and say, well, how many people really care about such and such bill that's moving through the legislature? And my argument is they don't often care because they don't know about it. Often it's really obscured what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
As you say, the regulatory capture, that is a real and serious problem, where a small number of very politically influential lobbying groups can essentially write legislation. I'm sure it's the case in West Virginia, just like it is in Florida, where there has been a lot of budget cuts on legislative staff, so they don't even get the ability to retain talented legislative policy analysts. A lot of them jump ship and go become lobbyists and make 3 times as much money writing the bills on behalf of some either company or other interest group. And they can run circles around most of the legislators because they don't have the time to read a lot of the legislation. They don't have the expertise in-house. And a lot of times they'll just defer to what lobbyists want because they're getting campaign donations. They don't have much of a leg to stand on. And so a lot of them actually would welcome the ability to have mass public participation just as an alternative to that system, because at least it gives them some sense of what their districts want in a way that's verifiable. I've watched a lot of these guys in Tallahassee where they field, I think in the speaker's staff told me that they get something like 1,200 emails a day. And
oh my God.
So, and I mean, this is a state house, right?
Yeah.
You can't possibly go through that. And most of it gets ignored
Right.
because they can't trust that these emails are coming from a real human being, because a lot of them are AI generated. And B, even if they are a real human being, a lot of them are form letters where they can't truly guarantee that person is actually in their district. So they just go into these spam filters. They don't trust the inputs that they're receiving. And so what we try to do for the benefit of legislators is actually provide them an efficacious mechanism for seeing what their districts want.
That's so crazy. You talk about the form letters. I got to tell you what happened last session in West Virginia. We had well, first off, they call it Free the Five. I don't know if you're familiar with ICANN. I forget what it stands for, but there's an attorney called Aaron Siri is his name. And so they come in West Virginia. And when they say Free the Five, our school vaccination laws are very stringent, for a good thing. And, we don't have religious exemptions. We don't have philosophical exemptions. So this is session 2025. And I believe the number was like 1,100 form letters were, dropped off at the Capitol. And then some delegates were, figuring out that some of these people weren't even in their district, or they didn't send it. And so I know I mean, 100% know that there are groups of senators and delegates that would appreciate the fact that they could verify, that it's coming from their district.
That's exactly right. And we were able to get a bipartisan appropriation from the Florida legislature by a group of Republicans and Democrats who worked together to get us into the budget because of that rationale. I mean, they just see it as free public polling effectively, because they would pay 30 to 40 grand. Right. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not going to poll their district on every bill that comes through the legislature. They'd be bankrupt. I mean, they'll poll their district maybe once in an election cycle, and that's only if it's a competitive cycle. So I think so. Several of them saw the advantage in that, but where we will get pushback, of course, is the idea of the accountability of the scorecards themselves. Because again, if voters are going to take the time to educate themselves about the policies and go through an arduous process of verifying themselves against the voter file and verifying themselves with a photo ID and all that, it's a high barrier to entry for a lot of people who are nervous about sharing data and all these things. So if they're going to go through that, the payback for the voter is they want some accountability. They want to know, if we gave you these inputs, did you actually do what your district asked you to do, so that way come November, they can decide whether or not to keep somebody in office or give a challenger an opportunity to do better.
Yeah. So this is kind of a squirrel conversation for a second, but I just thought of this. Florida and West Virginia have a person in common. I don't know if so his name is Adam Kissel, and is it Southwestern Florida University? Is that the school?
University of South Florida?
Maybe. Okay. So you guys had some controversy back in the wintertime over appointment to their board, and it was Adam Kissel. And okay, so this guy, so
I think that probably well, there's been several. New College of Florida was probably the first one, but yes, University of Florida Board of Regents, there was a big controversy over that, so it may have been one of those.
Yeah, so this guy's in West Virginia too. So he he came from the Heritage Foundation, a Heritage Foundation fellow, and now he's at so think of a map this way, like Koch Network, and then the Walton family, and then they flow into ALEC, and then the State Policy Network, and then they have babies, and one is Cardinal Institute, they're think tanks.
Okay.
That and they pump propaganda. But anyways, he's a fellow there, but he is on our professional charter school board. And so and I think maybe the beef in Florida was, what is this dude doing? Is he from here? But I meant to tell you that. It just was a sidebar. But before we run out of time, we have like 8 minutes left. So for people in West Virginia that want to follow and see if this comes to West Virginia, because you had mentioned that you guys were seeing where you wanted to pilot this, can you tell them how to find out and track and keep in the loop?
Yeah. So firstly, people in West Virginia can already vote on federal legislation. So you can download the Votes app, which is VOATZ, in the App Store. You can go through the verification process and you'll see the bills, the federal bills from this Congress. You can find us on digitaldemocracyproject.org. That's where you'll see all the bills and all the maps for how voting has been taking place on any given bill. We've verified about 27,000 people in the app. There have been over 120,000 kind of advisory votes cast in the app so far. But on any given bill, you may only have a few hundred or so people who weigh in on a bill. So really, in order for us to get real impact, we are going to need millions of people in all 50 states engaging in this way. So what we need most from people is vote, educate yourself and vote on bills. Ask your friends and family to do the same. And we're an all volunteer organization. So we have volunteer developers, we have legislative policy analysts, we have organizers who work with a variety of nonprofits like the League of Women Voters and others to help spread the word. You know, obviously the work you're doing in independent media is fantastic, helping spread the word. So it's going to take a whole community of people to really reimagine what a participatory democracy could be using the tools that are now available to us, and build that for public good.
So I'm actually on the League of Women Voters a state board in West Virginia, and right now they use Vote 411, but I may have to like tell them and maybe we can connect.
Yeah, I
Talk
mean,
to
Vote
them.
401 is great for knowing what's on your ballot. But we're obviously we're doing legislation. So we're trying to engage people between elections. We're trying to say, why wait every couple of years to have a say in your government? Why don't we create the Netflix of government, you know, government on demand? Let's put government in people's pockets. That's
Right.
exactly what we're after here. So, but I mean, Vote
Right.
411 is a gold standard for
Yeah.
understanding your ballot. And the league has been a fantastic partner in Florida, and certainly we would love to connect with your league as well in West Virginia, and we can certainly give presentations on how the technology works and all that kind of stuff too. But I think it's going to take all of us working together as a community of grassroots democracy reformers, basically, to build this organization into what we believe is possible.
You're back.
Okay, there we go. I don't know what's going on with Verizon today. Sabotage.
um, well, I just really enjoyed this conversation, and I may poke you back and have you on again, depending
Yeah.
how it pans out. And like I told you yesterday, I've kind of quit participating with organizations that don't leave people with agency. You have to leave people with agency, and I really like the work that you're doing. So thank you for doing it and reaching out.
Well, it's very kind of you. And again, the work that you're doing is just as important in this process. We're gonna have 3 billionaires and 1 trillionaire owning the whole media. so so we need independent media to be able to get the voice out.
Right. So we're running podcasts wherever we can.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, you have a great evening and thank you so much for coming on. And I hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thank you too.
All right. See ya.
Bye bye.